I just wonder whether taking Palmer out and adding something different when the game's not going our way wouldn't be a bad thing.
Behind the scenes there, do you think NKUNKU and João Felix are going into training every day buzzing because they got to play against Noah?
Bearing in mind how much money we have spent in the last 18, 24 months, outside of CAICEDO and ENZO, who is there?
We just didn't do enough to get anything done, and I was still waiting going, come on, let's change something.
The first 45 minutes, with the best side, we've taken the lead. It's about, I think, noticing when the game changed, when that pendulum slowly does swing back into the favour of the opposition.
As a fan, I'm absolutely pleased to have him back. I don't think he should have gone out of the door.
The system that he plays Maresca, we are a three at the back, and I think Trevoh on that right-hand side can play that role.
CONOR could offer more of a goal threat than the three midfielders that we've got now, as far as his energy and getting into the box.
Still challenging for top four. Newcastle look like a machine. Villa, they get them back together. Can't write City off. That top four is going to be a huge battle.
I wouldn't like to see him in a Chelsea midfield ever. We don't need people that are not going to be here or not going to be unhappy or could disrupt training. You've probably been one of them players that's disrupting.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Inside Chelsea, the show for Chelsea fans by Chelsea fans. I'm Leonie Carpenter and I'm joined by former Chelsea defender Jason Cundy and former Chelsea midfielder and assistant manager Jody Morris. Hello guys, it is brilliant to see you.
Good to see you guys as well.
Thank you. So, a 2-2 draw with Bournemouth on Tuesday night means it's just 3 points from a possible 15 in the league since the 22nd of December. Again, we had chances to go a few goals up in the first half. Again, we failed to convert them and lost control of the game. And in the end, though, it was Reece James's free kick that did save us because we could have easily lost that game, let's be honest. We've had a day to reflect on it now, but what were your thoughts, Jody, on that game?
Disappointing is the initial thoughts. Like you said, Leonie, first half we were certainly the better team, which is almost like been a bit of a ongoing theme of late. But yeah, failing to put away our chances and then actually coming out for the second half and looking poor again, and allowing other teams to take the initiative and create too many chances against us obviously giving away the lead. And you're right, all in all, in the end, we're kind of coming away happy with a point, and the only icing, I suppose, on the cake is the fact that we had Reece back and he was the one to get us the equaliser, but ultimately disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, that goal was right in front of me on Matthew Harding lower, so to see that free kick go in was beautiful, and to be Reece James as well, coming back from injury as well, was a nice moment in a difficult game. Jace, what did you make of it?
Infuriatingly predictable, I'm afraid. This is a feature now that we've become accustomed to. You mentioned the 22nd of December. Conceding late goals going into the Christmas period was something that we got away with because we had a 2-goal advantage against Leicester, 2-goal advantage against Spurs, Bournemouth, then we play against Fulham and we get a collar felt. And that's really where I felt that it had been coming. It wasn't a huge shock, massively disappointing. But our second half performances, there is a change. And when you're playing against Chelsea right now, even if you're 1-0 down, as we saw the other night, teams are still in it. They know that we can see goals. Clean sheets is a very, very rare thing watching Chelsea at the moment. 2 goals should be enough to get you over the line. 2 goals now is just enough for a point. And there's a lot to work on. There's still some good things. The first half performance against Palace, how we went 2 or 3 up, I don't know. Fulham, we got pegged back. Bournemouth, OK, we had the 2-goal advantage. We saw the other night, we could have been 2 or 3 up at half-time. We weren't. And we allow teams to stay in games. Missing chances is crucial. But that's what the game's about. It's about what we do in both boxes. At the moment, creating chances is still very much, it's a thing that we do very well. Finishing them off, not enough.
Why aren't we finishing our chances now?
I don't know. I think it's a culmination of things. Ultimately, you've got to look at the individuals that are missing these chances at the beginning. I mean, I think a lot of coaches and managers get unnecessary stick for certain things that go wrong in games, and when it's individual mistakes, in which it usually is when it's a missed chance, it's usually an individual mistake or individual mistakes that can lead to conceding goals. I think it's unfair when managers get that criticism, but the only thing I would say is that I felt earlier on in the season we was maybe converting a little bit more of the glaringly obvious chances that we were getting, and also producing some fine, like Jay said, attacking play, which hasn't really dropped that much as far as performances is concerned. But what I would say is I feel that teams are giving us less chances now, because I think we've earned the respect of the league a little bit more. I think going into, like we said, going into December, I felt teams always felt that they could score against us, but maybe wasn't giving our attacking side of the game enough respect. And I think now teams know that going forward we're a force to be reckoned with. And I think they're maybe limiting the amount of chances that they are giving us, albeit we are still, I think, creating enough to certainly take bigger leads in games.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're creating those chances, aren't we? Why do you think we're not putting them to bed now, Jace?
Well, Joe just touched on individual. I mean, Jackson comes in he got a lot of praise at the beginning of the season, and rightly so. Started off very well, a little dip, as he always do. Strikers can do that. He's still very young. But there are now a lot of chances that I feel that he has to take. There was one against Palace, 1v1 with a keeper, chose to go with the outside of his foot. He scored one against West Ham earlier in the season, not dissimilar, gets it wrong. Another couple of chances throughout the games going over the Christmas period. And I just wonder whether he just feels at the moment in front of goal, he just looks like that striker that needs a goal. And doesn't quite matter how it happens. Had a great hand in the goal. I mean, you talk about what he can do off the ball. His hold-up play's improved since he's been here. Lovely pass from Palmer. That link-up play is still very much there. He needs a goal, Leonie, and he had two really good chances against Bournemouth.
Yeah. Well, how things change. And Jody, I was on my way to Everton away. We could have gone top, albeit for a few hours. We're now looking at 5th, could be 6th when we play next. What's happened? Is it MARESCA'S choices? Are players tired? What do you make of it?
Well, like I said, I do think that we've maybe earned a little bit more respect in the league for what we can do going forward. Although I wouldn't say that the performances have changed massively from the beginning of the season. I felt that we was maybe on the right side of maybe luck at the beginning of the season. I think we was on the right side of maybe some decisions at the beginning of the season. I think things went our way a little bit more than of late. But I'd have to say, I think the majority of what the biggest problem is more the fact that teams are giving us a little bit more respect from maybe tightening up defensively and being a little bit more difficult for us to break down. But also knowing that they can create chances against us. And if we ain't putting away our chances, we've been open from the first game of the season. We haven't tightened up defensively. Is there players that are maybe not producing as much as they was at the beginning of the season? Probably. But I think that was to be expected. And I think the real test of us, which I think we're probably in the midst of it at the moment, I think the real test now is when we are going through a bit of a blip and we are going through a spell of maybe not getting the results that we all predicted. I mean, let's get it right. The 5-6 games ago, our run of games looked brilliant. And you think that there's just a plethora of points involved there. Now, I think the real test is now how we can bounce back from this slight blip in the season.
I've got to ask you, Jody, as a coach, do you think with MARESCA there needs to be a change of game plan now that teams are respecting us more, in your words? What do you think needs to happen? Is it to do with the style of play, and do we need to change it from your perspective?
Well, what I would say is I wouldn't want to be critical of MARESCA from a coaching aspect so far, because I do think that the way he tries to play the game and the way we have been the better team in quite a lot of games has been good. But I am surprised with how long he waits sometimes to make decisions and substitutions. Even the other day, I mean, waiting till the 70-something minute, or no, the 80-something minute for Neto. I mean, you're talking about such a top-class attacking player, and we're 2-1 down. That's one of the things that I've maybe been a little bit baffled by, why he waits so long to make some substitutions. But I think at the moment, I just think you've got to ride out these moments of when you're going through these spells of not winning games. I think how quickly you come out of them is testament to, like, the coaching, whether it's the man management or whether it's the individual players. I think how you come out of these ruts can be season defining at times.
I just wonder whether, because the first half performances, if you just cut that off at 45 minutes Actually, we've been really good. Creating lots of chances, scoring goals. OK, we have conceded 1 or 2, but largely, that first 45 minutes, it's been what Maresca wants to see. And I wonder whether perhaps he's seen that and thinking, right, I saw that first 45, I'm going to leave it a little bit longer. I saw it, and I just wonder whether there are moments in games. Joe's right, 81 minutes he came on, Neto. There have been 1 or 2 others. And we spoke last week about how much does he trust the bench? Because you look at the players that can make a difference. Felix, where's Felix play? What's his best position? And NKUNKU, where's his best? How can he come on and add something to the game? Who do you take off? Because really, those 2 players I mentioned probably want to play where Palmer does. He brought Gia on and left Felix on the bench. Felix come off the bench, left NKUNKU on the bench against Crystal Palace. I just wonder whether he's looking at the bench going, what can that do to change this? And I just wonder if there's a little bit of that going on.
And also, I think your point's great, because at the same time, when you're talking about making those changes, I think there's probably only maybe 2 positions where you could look at maybe changing it. Because we are so open, it's not like we're kind of solidified in midfield and we're stopping attacks, where sometimes you can bring on another attacking player that goes as one of the 3 in midfield. Where we're trying, it looks like, to shore up, you're only really looking at a 9 and one of the wide men, because you ain't changing Palmer.
Not huge choices.
You're not changing Palmer.
No, you're not.
You can't afford to.
But there's not huge choices off the bench. And I know this will sound really strange, bearing in mind how much money we have spent in the last 18, 24 months. But the truth is, you look at the midfield, Lavia came off, started again. He's had his injury problem. Outside of CAICEDO and ENZO, who is there to put in there? Who is that player that comes off the bench when Maresca turns around and said, right, we're a little bit open, we're struggling, looks at the bench going, so there are deficiencies for me in the squad. And even though we spent as much money, I still think...
Which could point to the coaching and the management aspect of it, where you're going, if we're not looking solid enough with an ENZO and a CAICEDO in midfield, OK, you can play 3 with Lavia, and that's happened quite a few times. But if you're not looking solid enough with them, then you go, well, where can you get a little bit more of a structure that teams are finding harder to break down? Because at the moment, because we attack so well, you'd still like to think that we'd nullify counter-attacks a lot better than what we do. And you'd like to think that if you put in ENZO and CAICEDO in midfield, I know CAICEDO started right back the other night, which I don't like at all. I think I think he's been our best player this season. So to play him at right back here, I thought was strange. But you do have to think about nullifying counter-attacks a lot better from positions of authority. So being in their defensive third, you've got to do better at stopping them getting out. Now, does that mean you need to change the setup a little bit? I don't know. But at the moment, we are far too open from being in a position of superiority.
When in the first half, that open part of the game suits us because it's high energy, and they're a little... Certainly against Bournemouth, I felt that they showed us a bit too much respect early on, but we were good. Yeah. We dominated the ball. Palmer was involved in it. Second half, things change. I don't want to use the excuse tiredness. That's not where I'm going here. But the fact that CAICEDO comes in from right back to make that extra man up, that pushes ENZO on higher up the pitch. I felt Lavia coming off. I felt the game, that changed the way the game went. Even though it was 1-1 at the time, I felt Lavia coming off was a big miss for us. Mm.
Is there anyone, when you look at the bench, that you think is a game changer?
I would have to say that if you've got a player of the quality of NKUNKU and João Felix, you can't, like Jason was saying, I know he's joking about it, but you're going, we can't moan about not having options when you've got quality like that. It's just whether those options fit into the way in which Maresca wants to play. Does he always want to have the specific 9? So, like Jay said, he's bringing in Gihi, and he's like, OK, that's over an NKUNKU, over a João Felix. You're like, that's where you're maybe looking at a little bit. Is there maybe a case for a more experienced, high-level number 9 than Gihi? Maybe. But other than that, you can't moan about the attacking options that we've got and the quality. Yeah. You literally can't moan about it. There is very, very good players.
The thing is, though, where do you play NKUNKU? If you're going to leave Jackson on, which I don't think NKUNKU is a number 9, because he's a different type of player. Jackson will run the channels. He wants to play and operate, as does Felix, where Palmer is. We're not taking Palmer off. Then you have to change the structure of the team. To get those 2 in, you're then putting Palmer out on the right, where he played a lot of last season under Poch.
Yeah.
And he can still influence the game, but now you're accommodating another player and moving our best player, or most attacking player, creatively, out to the right-hand side. So these are the conundrum, and this is in-game management. He's thinking about this as the game's going on.
We spoke about before the harmony in the camp and Maresca having a really positive influence, bringing people together, and those players that weren't on the pitch seemed content and were happy to fight for their place. Do you think those fringe players now are being affected in a different way? And do you think that's creating a bad atmosphere in the camp? Do you think then that's affecting results? How do you think that's playing out at the moment?
Without being there, it's difficult to say, but if we're winning games, this conversation doesn't take place.
Yes.
It's all about results. It's all about... Because we were slightly fortunate. I mentioned the game against Leicester, 2-0 up, conceded a late penalty. Spurs, 4-2 up, conceded a late goal to a set piece. Brentford, we were conceding late, but we're still getting the points. Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, that's dried up. And when the results don't go well, the noise from the crowd, noise from the media, inevitably, if you're not playing, there's going to be a little bit of an angst because we're not taking chances. I can understand why NKUNKU's feeling a little bit out of sorts because Jackson's missing 1 or 2 chances. I can understand why Felix, he's got Sancho on that left-hand side, at the moment. Sancho's doing all right, but it's all about results. Results go well, noise quietens.
And also, at the beginning of the season, I was having none of it that, everyone's so happy anyway. Let's make no bones about it. If you're playing in that European competition, you ain't in the starting 11 for Chelsea in the games that matter. Yeah. And now we could talk forever if you want, saying how happy we are because, like Jay said, when you're winning games, nobody's asking questions. Mm-hmm. But behind the scenes there, do you think NKUNKU and João Felix are going into training every day buzzing because they got to play against Noah in a European competition?
Kazakhstan as
exactly.
Well.
That's a load of nonsense. And also the fact that we're winning games, obviously, that's never a topic from the media because you're going, they're all getting minutes. They're all like the real ones that are playing in the Premier League and the main games that are worth something is the team that starts in the Premier League. Like, so there's make no bones about it. Those players that ain't been playing over a period of time, if they're not forcing themselves into the Premier League team, they know that they're ultimately the backups, which if you're a high-level player and is used to playing at in your career, you're not going to be happy with that. Hence why there's questions. Now, ultimately, it's compounded by the fact that we're not getting the results that we would like. So obviously, it becomes a topic. But even when we're winning games, those players ain't going to be happy.
Just on that, sorry, one other thing. Okay. The squad that was announced for the Conference League, Palmer wasn't in it, Lavia wasn't in it. You now announce a new squad going into the knockout stage. If Palmer and Lavia are in it, you do the maths. Yeah. Two players have got to sit out. So it'll be interesting to see what Maresca does, how serious he does take this competition, because you've only got one more squad to announce. Yeah. And if we do get to the final, you probably want Palmer playing, right?
Yes, please. I mean, I want to win that trophy. Well, I've already booked my accommodation and flight to Poland, so we got to. So a player who hasn't been particularly happy that we've read about this month is Renato Veiga. He's not been getting minutes. It looks like he may go out on loan now. What do you make of him and that decision?
Well, to be fair, when I see him come to the club and I saw him play at the beginning of his career at Chelsea this season, I would be astounded if he wasn't told before the season started that you're going to be a backup to whoever. Now, whether that meant that he was supposed to be a backup to Cucurella and maybe the fact that they've played right backs at left back over him in certain games has maybe got his backup. But I'd be astounded if he wasn't told that he was going to be a backup. So maybe slightly surprised that he's very unhappy, but at the same time, we don't know what was said before. But I had no feelings of him being in the starting 11, and I think if he was coming to Chelsea thinking that he was going to play a lot of minutes, I'd be surprised. Yeah.
Well, Maresca did make the point that he has played minutes. So what do you make of this situation, Jace?
Well, I get the frustration because if you're... Jody's right. He knew what he was walking into with his eyes wide open. But when you get there and all of a sudden you think to yourself, I fancy my chances here. And young footballers are ambitious men. They want to make sure they can play at the highest level. And I kind of get the frustration from Vegas, in particular recently. I just mentioned there about if you don't play CAICEDO, Lavia and Enzo, who is there? He can play in there. I've seen him play in there, and he is a defensively minded player. By all accounts, he sees himself as a centre half. He's a big lad, physically, left-footed. Though he can play left back, play holding midfield if he wants as well, and centre half. So I understand he's versatile. I think he adds a lot to the squad, but he's not going to start unless there are some injuries and illness and suspensions all happen at the same time. But I get the frustration from him.
Yeah, no, it's natural. Like we've both been players, and if you're not playing, I don't care who you are, you're not happy. I wouldn't like to see him in a Chelsea midfield ever. Now, whether he's a decent centre half or not, I think remains to be seen. Like I said, I'm not sure, but you can't blame the kid if he wants to go and get play more. But like I said, I'd be surprised if he's been shocked by the amount of minutes he's had this year.
Yeah. As a player, what does it feel like if you're going into a club and you're being told you are going to be on the bench? I mean, you guys are brilliant, and we know your careers, but how do you feel mentally about that? Do you then look at that club and go, I'm motivated, I want to do this, or are you thinking this isn't for me?
Well, ultimately, when you're signing for a club, a lot of the things that are said to you when they're trying to get you to sign is slightly different to what actually is.
Yeah, they probably won't mention you're going to be on the bench.
What their actual plans are. I mean, they'll probably fill you with, oh, look, you'll be fighting for your place and you're this, that, when really on paper you're going, yeah, Cucurella starts at left back all the time. I think we've all had situations in our career where you kind of really know that you're not above certain people in the team, and you go, fair enough, look, if they get injured or they're not playing well, we're not getting results, then you would like to be the one that you're going, well, okay, am I the one that's coming in now? And then if you get overlooked for that, when you think that you're where you are in the pecking order and all of a sudden you think someone's leapfrogging you, that's when it can go pear-shaped quickly. And I've played with people like that. I've been in that situation myself, and I've coached people that found that very difficult to deal with. Which is slightly different, I imagine, to maybe when people are trying to get you to sign and get you over the line. They won't say, oh, by the way, we're going to now play someone who's not even a player in your position, but we're going to play him out of position because we think he's better than you. That's difficult to take.
And also the squads now are much bigger than when I played. I mean, when I played, there was 2 subs.
Yeah.
Right?
That's how long ago, Jason.
Didn't want to say it.
Yeah. I know, but the reality is it's now a bigger squad game. You can be in a matchday squad and on the bench. You might be in the matchday squad 6 or 7 games on the spin. You might not get any minutes. You're still involved, but the fact that remains the same. There's an 11. The manager will have his set 11, 12, 13 players. He's probably, if everyone is fit, largely we know what MARESCA'S best side is. Depending on the opposition who it is, he might change 1 or 2, but largely we know. The players know as well. But when you've got such a young squad and we lack a bit of experience in this team, and there's 1 or 2 players. So CAICEDO, when fit, starts every game, right? Looks like Cole will start when he's fit every single way. Jackson, Palmer, that's a spine of that team. There are 1 or 2 other positions out there. Reece, if he's fit, is going to start. But we've got a very young squad, and I do get the sense that yes, come in. It felt like a family at the beginning of the season. But when you're not playing, it's it can be really quite demoralising.
Well, MARESCA'S now got 2 different teams. We've seen this throughout the season. Like you mentioned, the Conference League team and then Premier League side, and you've just mentioned players that are guaranteed in that starting 11.
I thought, yeah.
Do you think having 2 teams is proving to be a bad thing now?
I would never say it's a bad thing, because when you're a manager, if you've got a surplus amount of players that you're going, well, I can call on everyone, I can rest people. I think it's great for a manager. Sometimes the problem that you'll get as a manager is you could have 3, 4, 5 players that are unhappy, that if they ain't the best from a professional aspect, they could disrupt training a bit. This is where the management skills have to come in, where you nip that in the bud quickly, let it be known. And I have to say, first impressions of MARESCA from that aspect, I think, has been very good. He looks like he's on the discipline side of stuff, and he won't stand for no rubbish. But there's only so much that if that's isolated instances or isolated cases, and it's only 1 person or 1 or 2. When you've got 3, 4, 5 that are maybe disillusioned, it can become difficult to manage. So numbers is great if everything's fine, but numbers can become a real problem if people are unhappy.
Yeah.
Hence why you don't want managers don't want big squads in pre-season. They know they want, right, these are the people we're working with, and we don't need people that are not going to be here or not going to be unhappy or could disrupt training. You've probably been one of them players that disrupted training, Jason.
Never, Jody. I was always professional. But Jody made the point earlier about you. They know there's a pecking order here. There's the conference team and there's the Premier League team. And even in between that, we got the FA Cup team. You know, we got a tough draw next away at Brighton, so we might see a hybrid of the two. But you look at Trevoh Chalobah, right? We all saw what he did at Leipzig. He picked up the injury in the French World Cup squad, and that kept him out. We had a lot of injury. There aren't too many teams in the Premier League that wouldn't take him now and start.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There aren't many. But the problem he's got is the system that we're playing. And he's got Palmer in front of him. And he's not a wide player. I don't think he's a wide player. He can play there, but he's not. And he's not really a number nine. If you're NKUNKU, I'm better than this. And you've got to... I think everyone associated with him, including Maresca, will understand how he will feel, because the truth is he is better than just sitting in the bench.
I absolutely agree with that. And like you said, you get certain players over time or during their career where they hit a wall as far as luck is concerned. Now, if you're his type of player, but you're at a football club that has Cole Palmer in it, there's one winner there. Cole Palmer would be in front of the majority of world footballers at the moment. So I feel for him because I really like him as a player. So it's a difficult one. I like us to have top players that are ready to back up and ready to come off the bench. But from a human element, I feel for him because I do think, I agree with Jace, I think he would be in demand with a lot of other clubs around Europe.
The game, I think it was the Fulham game, where the game was slowly getting away from second half. They kept going down our left-hand side. We had less influence on it. I'm not saying that we should think about taking Palmer off every game, but I just wonder whether taking Palmer out and adding something different when the game's not going our way wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because Palmer's been so brilliant that he can create something out of nothing. There must be so much hesitation to think, why do I take my best creative player off? But I've just wondered, there's been a couple of games, Palace as well, away, whether maybe that change, with 10 to go, just try something different. But that's not even happened.
But I see what you're saying. Defensively, especially when you're talking about Robinson at Fulham, he will bomb on all day. Probably been one of the best left backs in the league this
Absolutely.
year. Now that's not Cole's. That's not his game. But I agree with Jace. There can be moments like that where defensively you'd go, okay, Cole is maybe not the first one you'd ask for. I mean, if you look at if it was Neto over that side, you'd go, he would maybe want to run and track back with Robinson and people like that a little bit more than Cole. But when you're producing as much as he is and what he's doing for the football team,
it's hard. Yeah, you almost don't want to take him off, but
I wouldn't. I just couldn't bring myself.
Can you imagine at 1-1 if he takes Cole Palmer off?
Yeah.
And we still get beat 2-1.
Yeah.
That heat that Maresca will feel. Why are you taking off your best player when it's 1-1?
Yeah.
The reality is he kept him on and we still got beat. But
yeah,
I mean, the only argument is to say you could maybe put him inside and put him as a 10 in the middle, and then you shore up where their attacking threat is, where you go, okay, Cole Palmer can play on a opposition team's deepest midfielder and just stick on him. He can do that. But having to track back with Robinson is...
no, thank you.
It's a big ask. It's a big ask. Let's talk about Maresca's in-game management then. So his decision-making, do you think he is stubborn? Do you think he has a style of play and he's not going to shift from that? Do you think there's a plan B that we may not have seen yet? What do you make of it?
Well, having watched Leicester a lot last year, I think he's got his way of playing and that is it. There's not much, you're not going to get much more of a deviancy away from that. The only thing I would say from a fan and a coaching element, I would have liked to have seen changes a few times, like a little bit earlier. I think we, like Jay said, that a lot of the time we come out for the second half and we've been poor. I mean, I was at the Palace game and we just didn't do enough to get anything done, and I was still waiting, going, come on, let's change something. And when you've got really good attacking players and we've lost the grip of the game that we had in the first half, I think sometimes you do need to not necessarily change anything from a tactical aspect, but just new bodies and new energy and new ideas that individuals can give you on the pitch. I'd like to see that a little bit quicker, but we ain't going to see a change in the way that Enzo plays his football. I mean, like I said, there was quite a few games at Leicester last year where you could see the fans and you could hear their frustration, and he won't come away from that. And I think most confident coaches are like that. But it's like Jay said, it's whether sometimes he looks at it, because I do agree. I think from a defensive aspect, making changes where we think we could shore up, there's not many options where, unless you have a Lavia on the bench or an Enzo that's going to be on the bench, that you can then come in and go, OK, we're going to play 3 midfielders in the midfield rather than have a 10. Mm-hmm. There's not much you can do from a defensive aspect unless you change a defender for defender. So, yeah, the only thing I would say is I wouldn't have minded seeing changes a little bit earlier. But I don't think we're going to get anything different from him from a tactical aspect, unless it's little tweaks as far as what fullback will go inside, what fullback will go higher. I don't think there'll be much different.
Yeah, it's that there are games. The Fulham one for me sticks out like a sore thumb, where Joe just mentioned about Anthony Robinson. All game, they were trying down their left, our right. All game. And they eventually got the equaliser when Pedro Neto had picked up a booking. He looked like he was dead on his feet. And he then tries to kind of bump into Robinson, goes down holding his head, trying to get a free kick. Wasn't a free kick. Cross comes over, ends up in the back of the net. And I felt that was coming. It wasn't a massive surprise. All game, down their left. Second half, down their left. And Robinson, eventually, they found that opening. For me, it was there. It was obvious that was coming. I just wonder whether there's those little moments of tweaks. Get Neto off. He's run himself ragged. He's been chasing Robinson. Maybe even something as... Get a defender out there. I don't know.
Reece could play there, couldn't he? Reece could play. If Reece is fit and ready, Reece can easily play in front of a right back.
But what's Maresca watching if you're seeing it and others are seeing it?
Because he you can call it what you want, stubborn, but he believes in what he's doing. We're 1-0 up. It's working.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, there are games this season. In fact, the large majority I've got written down in front of me. The first 45 minutes, with the best side, we've taken the lead. It's working. And then the game changes. And it's about, I think, noticing when the game changes, when that pendulum slowly does swing back into the favour of the opposition. You know, we went 1-0 up at home to Fulham, 1-0 up at home against Bournemouth. Got pegged back 2-1 in both of those games. And it felt like it was coming. It felt like it was coming.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that if you're a coach or a manager that believes in... you maybe don't think that... I don't think defensively we're good. Right? I don't think we've defended well at all this year.
As a unit?
Yeah. All over the pitch. All over the pitch. But particularly, we are vulnerable at the back. But forget pressing high up and defending from the front. We are vulnerable at the back. And if the manager thinks the best form of defence is attack as far as getting another goal, rather than trying to shore it up, knowing that you could be inviting more pressure when you haven't got a back line that's great with dealing with pressure, you might go, OK, I'd rather roll the dice as far as scoring another goal rather than conceding. That's the only thing that I would look at. And to be fair to him, if you do believe that you're a little bit vulnerable at the back and you'd rather attack and score another goal as far as your form of defence, I can kind of see it.
And in the games you're talking about, we could have been 2 or 3 up.
Yeah.
We had chances to be 2 or 3 up. So if we take those chances, he's proven a genius.
Yeah, exactly. Enzo's always going to lean on that, isn't he? Well, not lean on it, but that's a fair comment.
Yeah.
If you could have extended the lead and you missed your chances, that's more of... He might think that that's more of a...
Yeah, there you go. It's working.
Yeah.
We just can't finish. We will finish the next chance, and unfortunately for us, you know, we haven't quite been able to get that second goal, just to get that bit of daylight between us and them.
Well, someone who is coming back to help us out defensively is our Trevoh Chalobah, one of our own, Cobham graduate. I'm pleased to have him back. I love him as a player. I've loved watching him play over the years. I go to Cobham quite a lot and know his dad. Dad's lovely. Aside from that, he's back at Chelsea. How are you feeling about it, Jody? Are you pleased to have him back?
As a fan, I'm absolutely pleased to have him back. I don't think he should have gone out of the door. For me, he was our best defender at the end of last season. I think he was harshly treated at pre-season, where he gets a a shout the day before they're travelling to America, where he's not travelling and he's been training with the team for 2 weeks. Looking at what we have defensively, I would have took Trev over a number of players. So I'm pleased he's back from a Chelsea point of view, where we going. I think defensively we need reinforcements and we need to get better, and I think Trev will help us do that. From a personal note, I just hope that for Trev, because he's gone to Palace and he's been getting his gains and he hasn't been treated well over the past year to 18 months for me. And if he does come back, I hope that we play him as much as he was getting game time at Crystal Palace for his own career and his own development, because he's been nothing but put his body on the line. Great professional at Chelsea, come through the ranks, great kid, done nothing but give his all for Chelsea. And I think he's had a couple of moments where I think the club could have been better with him. So I hope that he comes back and plays.
No.
Agreed. Look, he's got his own song. It's something about an academy boy coming through, because he represents, I see academy boys coming through, he represents me as a Chelsea fan. The system that he plays, Maresca, in possession, we are a three at the back, because that inverted fullback, whether it be Gusto, Reece or CAICEDO, it was. And I think Trevor on that right-hand side can play that role, which is kind of amazing when you think about the players that he's had in there. Josh Acheampong, by the way, done really well. He's one for the future, that kid.
Very good.
And he can play that. He likes to step into that midfield. With the injuries to Fofana and Badiashile, and Dizaze looks like he's not going to quite be good enough at Chelsea, certainly from what we've seen, certainly at centre-half. And I feel desperately sorry for Trev, but you know what a chance to come back, because I think he does start. Yeah. I think he starts because of the system he plays. Trevor has played a three at Palace. He played a three at Chelsea. He's done that in the past. I think the role that he wants to play, I think we'll see him on that right, stepping into playing that wide receiving as well. So good luck to the boy. Hope he does himself
I think
proud.
that's a good point from you, though, Jace, as well, though, is that let's not forget how well, OK, I know they brought Josh off at the weekend, but let's not. I was at the Palace game and he had an outstanding game at centre half. Yeah, and as far as he's almost like a young Trev, to be honest with you. But yeah, I agree. I think that he's got all the attributes to play in a Maresca team. Now, the only thing that worries me is that he done the exact same last year, came back. I think Poch brought him back into the team, defended great, played great, and then all of a sudden was shipped out. So. Let's see what happens.
Can't do any more though, can he? Do you know, if the club see you as an asset and move you on, all he can do is come back.
Yeah, and I actually think that's why a load of the Chelsea fans have been quite vocal, saying, we feel for him, but actually we'll give him a hell of a lot of support. That first game that he plays, coming back, I think you'll see how much the Chelsea fans appreciate him, because, like I said, he's put his head down, been professional, and giving his all for Chelsea every time he's played.
Hasn't said a word, has he, either? Because he can feel slightly unfortunate for when things have gone, but wish him all the best when he comes back.
Absolutely, and Jody, like you say, he's a professional, isn't he? He's shown that throughout his whole career so far. Really hope he's playing on Monday, because I will be shouting his name. Let's talk about our central midfield. We've got Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo, who have had a good season. Enzo Fernandez had a little dip and then came good again. What do you make of that pairing, Jody?
I'm still a little bit unsure of it, because of more from a defensive aspect, where I still think that there's games where we control it and we dominate the game. And I have to say, I thought Enzo was very good against Palace as well. I really enjoyed watching him play there, and I do think he's performed well of late. There's still something about the combinations in the midfield that I'm not sure about, because I do believe some of the problems that we have from being open does come from those in midfield. Now, I'm sitting here saying that, but I do believe Caicedo's been our best player this season. So I'm just a little bit concerned with how sometimes we can easily lose control of a game, and a lot of the time when you lose control of games, it's to do with what's going on in midfield. Now, I felt we've done that against Palace, or we allow teams to come back into it. Now, whether that's, like I said, whether that's us giving up chances, which then allows teams to get their back up. But as far as a partnership, I wouldn't say that they've played badly individually. And And like, I'm a Lavia fan. I do like him a lot. I think he brings something a little bit different. But there's still a little bit of me where, as a combination, I think that they can be doing better as a combination from a tactical aspect, whether it's one being closer to the other, one maybe not leaving the other one as isolated, or maybe staying for a little while, and game management sort of side of it, where I think we can control games a little bit better. But I think individually, I don't think that they've been performing badly. I just think as a collective, they can maybe do a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just thinking about how that will work. Let's assume, for the sake of this conversation, Reece comes back. Well, if Reece is on that right-hand side, there's going to be an inverted fullback, whether it's going to be Cook or Rest. Certainly what we've seen, Palace away, is the only game I can remember where we didn't invert the fullbacks. We stay as a 4 at the back. How do you get Lavia, CAICEDO and ENZO in the same team if Reece is playing at right back? You can't. Unless you change the shape, and he's not going to do that. So that's going to be fascinating to see how he gets that, how he sorts that 3 out, what he does, and who plays at right back. And if Reece does, someone's got to make way. And I'm with Joe. I think Lavia he's the one that makes it tick in there for me. He's the one that allows ENZO to go and do what he wants. CAICEDO and ENZO as a 2, it's a bit, not enough dynamism in there, certainly from Enzo's point of view. But fascinating to see what he does with that, with the inverted fullback, if Reece does go inside.
Yeah, and because when that is happening, you're expecting one of the midfielders to be a little bit more higher up and offer a goal threat. And I think that's something that we lack. Whatever way we want to look at the midfield and how they perform, there's not any goals coming from our midfield. No, I know there's been a couple, but I'm like, there's not a threat. It's not like a natural number 8 that's going to be arriving in the box 25 times a game like a Lamps would do. Yeah. I think we miss that side of it. And if Jace is right, if it don't matter what side, because I do believe Reece can go up and down on the right. I don't think he needs to come inside it. It can be Cucurella, or you can alternate whatever way you're doing it. But when that happens, there needs to be the knock-on effect of those midfielders going into the box and threatening, or sometimes going beyond the strikers. And at the moment, none of those players really look like they can do that.
Well, someone that is flying in midfield at the moment is our Conor Gallagher. I say our Conor Gallagher, he is one of our own. At Atletico Madrid, 14 wins on the bounce. He has been integral with those wins. Do you think we regret letting him go?
I think it's hard to say. It depends on what reasons you let him go for. Because for me personally, I don't think they let him go from a footballing aspect. I know there was a lot of chat about Conor can't play in the way Enzo wants to play football. Well, I think that's a load of nonsense. Like, Conor's played for England. He's played in a team that wanted to play football. Conor could offer more of a goal threat than the three midfielders that we've got now, as far as his energy in getting into the box. We was talking off air earlier where Jace said, don't tell me Conor can't press in this team. Like, Enzo likes to press. There's no better pressing midfielder than Conor. Like I said, I don't think it was a footballing decision. I think it was purely financial and from a business aspect. Mm-hmm. Now, as a Chelsea fan, am I happy about that? No. But at the same time, the club needs to run in a certain way and they need to do what they believe is best for the club going forward. Now, is Conor upset at being at Atletico Madrid and being top of the league? I'm not so sure he is. So it might have worked out good for both parties.
Got his first goal for England as well, didn't he? So it's all working out.
I'm pleased for him. He's a great kid. Like, we all love Conor. He's, like you said, he's a homegrown player, but he's a great lad. And like I said, weirdly enough, playing on the left side of the midfield 4 quite a lot of the time at Atletico. But if you're talking about dream managers to play for, as far as Conor Gallagher's type and Diego Simeone, you're going, that's a match made in heaven.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and when you and Frank were in charge, Jody, which feels like a million years ago now, do you see any similarities with what's happening this season? Because you had a period of going top. Obviously, we didn't get to top after the Everton game, but do you see similarities, and what do you think is happening now?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not a great spell for us, and obviously when we was there, I think we went top December the 5th, or it was early December, and then it was only for, I think it was 36 hours or 24 hours.
Still top.
Oh, yeah. Well, don't worry. I remind people about it all the time. Got sacked in January, so, but the month before we got sacked, we was top of the league. No, we went through a bad spell and obviously started at Everton, which is a difficult place to go. Certainly the manner in which we got beat at Everton, me and our team, was very, very poor. I'm not necessarily saying that the draw that we got against Everton was, I don't think it could be worse than our game that we played against Everton. We was really, really poor. But I think when you have young players and you have young, maybe inexperienced players, not many leaders in the team, I think you can go through spells. But like I touched on earlier, I think one of the problems that we had is that we never got out of that spell quick enough. And that's just one of the worries that I have about this spell now. I think your acid test comes, and I said that last time I was on the show, when we go through a blip, that's when we'll see what we're made of. All these people talking about us, we're title challenges, we were saying nonsense, because we hadn't been through a blip yet. So now I think we're going through one, which there's a lot worse blips you can have than obviously picking up a few points. Yes, we've lost a couple, but at the same time, I think getting out of this little rut and getting a couple of good results quickly will be good for the team. And also, where we get sacked a month later, I think where our ownership at the moment is certainly supporting Maresca where we're going. It won't matter if we go on this spell for a little bit longer. There's going to be nobody looking at changing managers in January.
No.
Agreed. Need a win on Monday. All of a sudden, this game at home against Wolves is become bigger than it should do. 3 points out the last 15. Not scoring enough goals, can't keep enough clean sheets, just that one at Everton. This blip, the word blip, that could get rut, whatever that next word is after.
What's a longer word?
What's a longer word than blip? Because at the moment, there is a lot of noise on social media. I get them on some of the Chelsea fans on talkSPORT as well. Massive game. We got Man City away the following weekend. All of a sudden, if you don't pick up a victory against Wolves, then you go into City too. I know they're having a bit of a tricky time at the moment. But we overachieved, I felt, early part of the season. We should not really have been where we were, but take it, rode our luck a little bit, whether it be the results decision, whatever it was. Now we're underachieving. So somewhere in between is where I feel we should be. Still challenging for top four. Newcastle look like a machine. Villa look like they're getting them out together. Can't write City off. That top four is going to be a huge battle. Right now, Europa League looks the more likely, but look, there's still bags of points still to come.
Absolutely. We keep positive, guys.
Indeed.
We always do.
Absolutely.
OK, that is it for another episode of Inside Chelsea. We'll be back on Tuesday, the day after the Wolves game. As always, if you want to get involved, post your comments below and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you very much for your company, and thank you to Jason and Jody. I could talk to you guys all day. See you next time. All together now, up the Chels.
Oh, sorry.
Well done, Jody.